The delivery room at Manhattan's St. Augustine Hospital gleamed with sterile precision, its white walls reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights. Outside, the New York City skyline glittered under a December moon, but inside, the air was thick, with anticipation and tension. Victoria Harper, a woman whose name carried the weight of old money and social prestige, lay on the hospital bed, her auburn hair matted with sweat. Her emerald eyes, usually sharp with command, softened with exhaustion and hope. After years of waiting, of navigating the pressures of her high society life, she had finally given birth to her first child. Beside her stood Charles Harper, her husband, a titan of real estate whose cold demeanor belied his wealth and influence. His hands were buried in the pockets of his tailored suit, his jaw tight as he stared at the medical staff bustling around the room. The delivery had been long, but it was over now. Victoria's breaths came in shallow gasps as she waited for the moment she dreamed of, holding her child, the heir to the Harper legacy. The Harpers were a dynasty, their names synonymous with power, elegance, and perfection. This child would carry that legacy forward, a symbol of their unassailable status. A young nurse, Sarah Delgado, approached the bed, cradling a small bundle wrapped in a soft white blanket. Her face, usually warm with a professional smile, was taut with unease. She had seen the baby's face and she knew what was coming. "Mrs. Harper," Sarah said softly, holding out the infant. "Here's your daughter." Victoria's lips curved into a smile as she reached out, her hands trembling with anticipation. But as Sarah gently placed the baby in her arms, Victoria's eyes locked onto the child's face, and her smile froze. A deep, crimson birthmark stretched across the left side of the infant's face from her forehead to her cheek, like a shadow cast across her delicate features. It was stark, undeniable, and to Victoria, horrifying. "Oh my God!" Victoria gasped, her voice rising into a scream. She pushed the baby away, her hands recoiling as if the child were something monstrous. "No! No, this can't be!" Sarah stumbled back, clutching the infant tightly to prevent her from falling. "Mrs. Harper, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice trembling with shock. "Look at its face!" Victoria shrieked, clutching her head as if to block out the sight. "Oh God, no, this isn't my child!" Charles stepped forward, his frown deepening as he leaned over to inspect the baby. The birthmark was impossible to ignore, a jagged red stain that marred the child's otherwise perfect features. His lips curled into a sneer. "An ugly child like this," he said, his voice low and cold, "carrying the Harper name? This is an insult." Victoria's hands shook as she gripped Charles's arm. "Charles, we can't keep it," she whispered, her voice breaking with panic. "A child like this will ruin our reputation. The Harpers can't be associated with this." Sarah stood frozen, her arms tightening around the baby. "But sir, madam," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "this is your daughter." Charles's eyes snapped to her, sharp and unforgiving. "You have no right to speak," he said. "Get out now." Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding. The baby stirred in her arms, letting out a soft, plaintive cry. She looked down at the tiny face, the birthmark vivid but the eyes bright and innocent. How could they reject their own child? But the weight of Charles's glare was too much. With a final, helpless glance at the infant, Sarah turned and left the room, her footsteps echoing in the sterile corridor. Inside, Victoria and Charles spoke, in hushed, frantic tones, as if the baby weren't their own flesh and blood. "Charles," Victoria said, her voice quivering, "do whatever you must. I don't want to see it for another second." Charles nodded, his expression unreadable. He waved a hand toward Thomas, a loyal family employee who had been waiting, silently in the corner. Thomas was a wiry man in his late 40s, his face weathered from years of service to the Harpers. "Take it away," Charles ordered. "Make sure it disappears. Forever." Sarah, lingering just outside the door, overheard the command and gasped. "Senor, this is a crime," she blurted, stepping back into the room. "You can't do this. To a child." Charles's smirk was cold, his eyes devoid of warmth. "A crime?" he said. "Letting it live, Carrying that face and disgracing the Harper name. That's the real crime. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she watched Thomas approach. The baby's cries grew louder, as if sensing the rejection. Thomas hesitated, his hands trembling as he took the infant from Sarah. "God forgive me," he muttered under his breath, wrapping the baby in an old woolen blanket. Without another word, he turned and left the hospital, disappearing into the frigid New York night. The winter of 2005 was brutal, the air sharp with ice as Thomas trudged through the streets of upstate New York. The Harper estate, a sprawling mansion in the affluent town of Willow Creek, loomed behind him, its lights fading into the distance. He had served the Harpers for decades, and their orders were absolute. But as he carried the crying infant, her tiny face red from the cold, guilt gnawed at him. He couldn't take her to an orphanage. Charles had been clear. No one could know of her existence. He reached a secluded park on the outskirts of Willow Creek, where the trees stood like silent sentinels. The baby's cries grew fainter, her body shivering in the thin blanket. Thomas stopped at a stone bench, his breath visible in the freezing air. "God forgive me," he whispered again, placing the bundle on the bench. He turned away, his footsteps crunching in the snow, refusing to look back. But fate had other plans. Margaret Ellis, a retired schoolteacher in her late 60s, was walking her dog through the park despite the late hour. Her small wooden cabin sat on the edge of town, and she often took these quiet strolls to clear her mind. The sound of a baby's cry pierced the silence, stopping her in her tracks. "Dear Lord," she murmured, hurrying toward the sound. When she reached the bench, her heart broke. The infant lay there, wrapped in a tattered blanket, her tiny face marked by a vivid birthmark, but her eyes wide and searching. "Who could do such a thing?" Margaret whispered, scooping the baby into her arms. The child quieted, sensing warmth and safety. Margaret's aged eyes filled with tears as she cradled the infant. "You poor thing. If no one wants you, I will." She carried the baby back to her cabin, a modest home filled with books and knitted blankets. Lighting a fire in the hearth, Margaret laid the child on her bed, wrapping her tightly to keep her warm. "You're safe now, my dear," she whispered. "I'll call you Lily. It means purity, and you'll never live in darkness again." The next morning, Margaret ventured into Willow Creek to buy milk and supplies. The town was small but wealthy, its residents proud of their connection to the Harper family, whose mansion dominated the hillside. As Margaret entered the general store clutching Lily, she met the judgmental gazes of the townspeople. Mrs. Clara Thompson, a middle-aged woman, with a pinched face, frowned. "Margaret, where did you get that baby?" "I found her in the park," Margaret replied firmly. "Someone abandoned her. I'm going to raise her." The store fell silent. An elderly man, Mr. Harold Grayson, shook his head. "Look at that. Birthmark. She's cursed, Margaret. You're making a mistake." Another woman, Mrs. Evelyn Carter, whispered, "She could be a bad omen. Why would you take in something like that?" Margaret held Lily closer, her voice steady. "You're all being superstitious. She's just a child." But the whispers followed her. "That mark on her face. It's unnatural. She'll bring trouble." Margaret's lost her mind. Back at the Harper mansion, Victoria sat in an ornate armchair sipping chamomile tea. Her composure had returned, her face serene as if nothing had happened. Charles entered, his expression as cold as ever. "Is it done?" he asked. Thomas, standing by the door, nodded. "It's done." Victoria exhaled, relief washing over her. "Good. We're rid of that thing." Charles smirked. "We should start preparing for a son. The Harper family needs a worthy heir." Victoria nodded, her eyes glinting with ambition. In their minds, the child they'd discarded never existed. But fate, as it often does, had other plans for those who cast aside the innocent. Lily grew up in Margaret's cabin, a world away from the opulence of the Harper estate. The cabin was simple, with creaking floors and a small garden where Margaret grew vegetables to sell at the market. Lily was a bright child, her eyes sparkling, with curiosity despite the birthmark that drew stares. Margaret taught her to read using old books, and Lily devoured them. finding solace in stories of heroes who overcame impossible odds. But Willow Creek was not kind to her. The townspeople's whispers followed her everywhere. That's the girl with the mark. She's bad luck. Margaret's crazy for keeping her. Whenever Margaret took Lily to the market, children pointed and giggled, their parents pulling them away as if Lily were contagious. Lily would clutch Margaret's hand, her small heart heavy with questions. Why do they hate me? What did I do wrong? By the time Lily was 6, she was already reading books far beyond her age. One morning, as she sat on the cabin's worn rug, flipping through a tattered copy of Charlotte's Web, Margaret watched her with a gentle smile. "You're so smart, Lily," she said. "One day no one will look down on you." Lily looked up, her eyes wide. "Grandma, if I study really hard, will people love me?" Margaret's smile faltered. She knelt beside Lily, stroking her messy brown hair. "Not everyone is kind, my dear, but if you have knowledge, you'll have the power to change your fate." Lily nodded, though she didn't fully understand. To her, the world outside the cabin was a cold, unwelcoming place, but Margaret's words planted a seed, a belief that she could be more than the cursed girl the town saw. When Lily was 8, she begged to attend the local school. She had watched other children play on the dirt road leading to Willow Creek Elementary, imagining herself among them, her name called during roll call. "Grandma, can I go to school?" she asked one morning, her voice trembling with hope. Margaret hesitated. "You know they don't want you there, Lily." "But I can read. I'll study hard, I promise." The yearning in Lily's eyes was too much for Margaret to refuse. She took Lily to the school, hoping the principal, Mr. Robert Klein, would give her a chance. But as they approached the schoolhouse, a group of parents blocked the entrance. Mrs. Patricia Langston, a prominent figure in town, snapped, "We won't let a cursed child in our school. She'll bring misfortune," added Mr. George Ramsey, his voice loud enough for Lily to hear. Lily hid behind Margaret, her eyes filling with tears. Mr. Klein sighed, his hands raised in defeat. "Margaret, I'm sorry, but you see how it is. There's nothing I can do." Margaret trembled with anger. "She's just a child. Have you no conscience?" But the parents stood firm, their faces cold. Margaret had no choice but to take Lily home, her heart breaking as she saw the tears streaming down the girl's face. That night, Lily curled up in a corner of the cabin, her voice small. "Am I really that hateful, Grandma?" Margaret knelt beside her, squeezing her hands. "No, my dear. You're more precious than anyone in this town. They just don't see it." While Lily faced rejection, the Harper family celebrated the birth of their true heir, Edward. Born 2 years after Lily's abandonment, Edward was everything the Harpers wanted: handsome, charming, and free of any imperfections. The townspeople adored him, calling him the pride of Willow Creek. "He's a true Harper," they'd say, their voices dripping with admiration. "He'll bring honor to our town." Lily, watching from a distance, saw the way people fawned over Edward. He had everything she didn't: his parents' love, the town's approval, a life free of scorn. One day at the market, their paths crossed. Lily, curious, glanced at him, but Edward's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" he sneered. I'm Lily," she stammered. Edward laughed, his voice cruel. "Oh, you're that monster kid everyone talks about, aren't you?" The other children nearby burst into laughter. One of them, Tommy, taunted, "Lily, the cursed girl, you're bad luck." Tears stung Lily's eyes as she ran home, Edward's laughter echoing behind her. Despite the cruelty, she refused to give up. She buried herself in Margaret's books, learning everything she could. Margaret's words became her mantra. "You don't need the approval of cruel people. They don't decide your fate." But the greatest tragedy was yet to come. Winters in upstate New York were merciless, the wind slicing through the thin walls of Margaret's cabin. By the time Lily was 11, Margaret's health had begun to falter. Her coughs grew more frequent, her steps slower, her hands unsteady. Lily noticed the blood on Margaret's handkerchief, the way her grandmother shivered as she worked in the garden. "Grandma, are you okay?" Lily asked one night, her voice trembling. Margaret forced a smile, stroking Lily's hair. I'm fine, my dear. Old age just makes me a little tired. But Lily wasn't fooled. She saw the truth in Margaret's sunken eyes, the way her hands trembled when she thought Lily wasn't looking. Determined to help, Lily ventured into Willow Creek, knocking on doors to beg for work. She was only 11, but she understood that Margaret needed medicine and medicine cost money. At every house, she was met with cold stares. Mrs. Langston crossed her arms. Work here? Never. I won't let bad luck into my home. Mr. Ramsey shook his head. Do you think anyone would hire a cursed child? Get lost. Lily tried the bakery, the inn, the vegetable stall, but the answer was always the same. Exhausted and empty-handed, she returned to the cabin, her heart heavy with despair. Margaret grew weaker by the day, her coughs rattling her frail frame. Lily knelt beside her, holding her cold hands. Grandma, you need a doctor. Margaret smiled weakly. It's all right, my love. As long as I have you, that's enough. But Lily refused to give up. She ran to Mrs. Evelyn Carter's house, a woman who had once been Margaret's friend. Please, can I borrow money for Grandma's medicine? I'll work to pay you back. Mrs. Carter's eyes were cold. You think I'd help someone like you? Get out. Lily went to the town doctor, Dr. Ellis, but he shook his head. This illness requires expensive treatment. I can't help without payment. Every door slammed shut. That night, as the wind howled through the cabin, Lily sat beside Margaret, clutching her hand. Grandma, don't sleep. You have to stay with me. Margaret's eyes fluttered open, her gaze tender but weary. Lily, you are the most beautiful light in my life. Tears streamed down Lily's face. I don't want that light to go. Out. Please don't leave me. Margaret smiled, her breaths growing weaker. You'll be okay, my dear. Her eyes closed, and her hand went limp. Lily froze, her trembling fingers touching Margaret's face. Grandma. Grandma. There was no warmth, no heartbeat. She burst into sobs, hugging her grandmother's lifeless body. The news of Margaret's death spread quickly through Willow Creek, but instead of sympathy, the townspeople gossiped with cruel satisfaction. Mr. Ramsey shrugged. She should have abandoned that girl long ago. Keeping her only brought disaster. Mrs. Langston nodded. Now that she's gone, what about that child? Get rid of her, another villager said coldly. Who'd want to live near a cursed girl? Lily sat beside Margaret's body, her eyes swollen from crying. A shadow appeared at the door, Edward Harper, now 14, and radiating arrogance. So the old hag finally died, huh? He sneered. Lily looked up, tears streaming down her. First, don't talk about her like that. Edward smirked. Why not? I'm just stating the truth. Now that no one's here to protect you, how are you going to survive? Lily clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. I'll survive on my own. I don't need anyone's pity. Edward shrugged. Good luck then. Don't expect anyone in this town to help you. He turned and walked away, leaving Lily drowning in grief. Without Margaret, Lily became a ghost in Willow Creek. No one gave her food or shelter. She scavenged scraps of bread from the market, drank icy water from the stream, and slept in abandoned corners of town. Each day, she felt like a hollow shell, but a fire of anger burned within her. She would survive no matter what. Winter dragged on, the longest and loneliest of Lily's life. Without Margaret, the townspeople's cruelty knew no bounds. During the day, she wandered the streets, hoping for a sliver of kindness, a piece of bread, a warm corner to rest, but every door slammed shut. Get out! You're a bad omen! No one wants you here! At night, she curled up in the market, her tattered clothes no match for the biting cold. Her stomach twisted with hunger, but she gritted her teeth and endured. One day, as she scavenged for food, she stumbled upon a group of teenage boys in the town square. Edward Harper stood at the center, now 16, tall and handsome in a tailored coat. He was the pride of Willow Creek, the golden son of the Harper family. Lily turned to leave, but Edward spotted her. Hey, look who we have here. he called, his voice dripping with mockery. Our town's very own monster. The boys burst into laughter. One of them, Tommy, smirked. Jesus, I thought she'd have starved by now. Lily clenched her fists, trying to walk away, but Edward blocked her path. Where do you think you're going? Shouldn't you be grateful we've let you live this long? I don't need your pity, Lily said, her voice shaking but firm. Edward scoffed. Pity? I just find it amusing to watch a sewer rat struggle. The boys laughed louder. Another Jake spat on the ground. Lily, why don't you just disappear? We'd all feel better. Lily tried to slip past, but Edward yanked the tattered scarf from her neck, holding it high. Look at this. This is all she has to keep warm. Want it back, Scarface? Lily lunged for it, but Edward tossed it into the mud. Go ahead. Pick it up if you need it that badly. She stared at the filthy scarf, then lifted her head. I'd rather freeze than do what you tell me, Edward's smirk faltered. He hadn't expected defiance. Their eyes met, his filled with arrogance, hers with fire. His expression darkened, and he shoved her hard. Lily fell, her knees scraping against the gravel, blood seeping through her worn pants. Know your place, monster, Edward said coldly before walking away. That evening, Edward strode into the Harper Mansion's grand living room, where Victoria sat reading a fashion magazine. Mother, did you hear something interesting today? He said, smirking. That girl Lily is still alive. She's like a cockroach refusing to die. Victoria flinched, setting the magazine down. What? She still exists? Edward shrugged. She wanders the town like a stray dog. I saw her today. Victoria's face hardened, her hands tightening around her teacup. She cannot be allowed to exist. She's a disgrace to our family. Edward smirked. Don't worry, Mother, I'll take care of it. From that day, Edward used the Harper family's influence to turn the town against Lily completely. The innkeeper threw her out. No one would hire her or sell her food. She grew hungrier, colder, scavenging scraps to survive. One day, as she crouched to pick up a stale piece of bread, Edward's voice rang out. Look at that. She's a sewer rat now. His friends laughed. Lily clenched the bread, her heart burning. With rage, she needed to be stronger. She needed to survive. And for the first time, she thought of leaving Willow Creek behind. The sky over Willow Creek was gray, heavy with the promise of rain. Lily, now 15, walked along the dirt road, her bare feet bleeding from sharp stones. She had grown accustomed to hunger, to the scornful stares and cruel laughter, but today felt different. The townspeople gathered outside Beatrice's bakery, their voices hushed but hostile. As Lily approached, they fell silent, their eyes boring into her. Thomas, the innkeeper, stepped forward, his expression cold. You're no longer allowed to stay here, Lily. She froze. What? I've received orders, Thomas said. You can't sleep in the market anymore. You can't wander the town. It's best if you disappear. Lily's fists clenched. Orders from who? Thomas smirked. Everyone knows Edward calls the shots. Anger surged in Lily's chest. Edward's not the king of this town, Thomas scoffed. No, but the Harpers are. You're just a useless stray. Leave, or we'll make you. The crowd murmured in agreement. Mrs. Langston's voice cut through. You're a curse, Lily. If you stay, disaster will follow. Lily took a step back, her heart pounding. I haven't done anything wrong. But the crowd was unmoved. Desperate, Lily ran to Mrs. Carter's house, hoping for mercy. Mrs. Carter, please, I have nowhere to go, she pleaded. The door creaked open, but Mrs. Carter's eyes were cold. No one wants you here, Lily. I can't risk helping you. Leave. One by one, every door in Willow Creek slammed shut. Lily understood. She was utterly alone. For 3 days, hunger gnawed at her. She could barely walk, but she refused to give up. At the market, she reached for a stale piece of bread, only to hear Edward's voice behind her. Look, the monster's eating garbage, his friends laughed. Lily froze, clutching the bread. She's not just cursed, she's a beggar now, Edward taunted. Lily lifted her gaze, her eyes burning. One day, I'll prove you wrong. Edward chuckled. I'll be waiting, Scarface. Rain began to fall, cold drops pelting Lily's frail body. She curled up in the market, shivering, and thought of Margaret. "You can't give up," her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. Lily closed her eyes, pushing back despair. She had to survive. And for the first time, she allowed herself to dream of leaving. The harassment grew worse. Edward and his friends made Lily their target, throwing stones and scrawling hateful messages on the market walls. "Cursed girl. Get out." Each morning, Lily woke to new insults, each one a knife to her heart. One morning, she found Beatrice's bakery, vandalized with charcoal. "The monster touched this store. Don't come here." A crowd gathered and Beatrice pointed at Lily. "You did this, didn't you?" "No," Lily protested, but no one believed her. Thomas scoffed. "Of course it was her. She wants to drag us all down. We should drive her out," an old woman shouted. A man threw a brick, the jagged edge grazing Lily's arm. Blood dripped onto the ground. Pain and fear surged through her, but something snapped. She lifted her head, her voice steady. "Why do you hate me? I've never hurt anyone. You treat me like a monster, but what about you?" The crowd fell silent. Edward smirked, stepping forward. "You think you can stand up to us?" Lily met his gaze. "One day, I'll leave this place and become someone you'll never dare look down on," his smirk faltered. "Are you threatening us?" Lily didn't answer. She turned and ran, the crowd's shouts fading behind her. That night, Lily packed her meager belongings, a tattered scarf, a stale piece of bread, a small knife Margaret had given her. She couldn't stay. Willow Creek would kill her. She looked at the starry sky, remembering Margaret's words. New York is a big place, full of opportunities for those who never give up. Lily clenched her fists. "I won't let them destroy me." Before dawn, she left, her footsteps silent on the dirt path. The forest outside Willow Creek was dark, the trees looming overhead. Her stomach twisted with hunger, her feet bled, but she kept moving. Every rustle made her jump, but she told herself, "I can't stop." Then footsteps echoed behind her. Lily froze, her heart pounding. "Where are you running to, Scarface?" Edward's voice cut through the night. He stood with Tommy and Jake, their eyes gleaming with malice. Lily backed away. "Why are you here?" Edward shrugged. "We heard you were leaving. Thought we'd send you off properly." Tommy laughed. "Or keep you around. You're our best entertainment." Lily's fingers tightened around her knife. "Get lost, Edward." He laughed, grabbing her chin. "You think you can escape me?" She ripped free, her voice hard. "I'm not the scared girl I was." Edward's palm struck her face and she fell, her cheek burning. He snatched her knife, tossing it aside. "What were you going to do with this? Kill me." Lily grabbed a handful of dirt and flung it into his eyes. Edward yelled, stumbling. "Back!" She kicked his leg, sending him to the ground. Tommy and Jake froze, stunned. Lily sprinted into the forest, Edward's roar echoing behind her. "Catch her!" She ran until her lungs burned, bursting onto a gravel road. A carriage, no, a truck, barreled toward her. The driver, an old man with silver hair named John, slammed on the brakes. "What are you doing out here?" he demanded. Lily gasped, trembling. "Please, take me away from here." John's eyes softened as he saw her bruised face and bleeding feet. "Who did this to you?" Before she could answer, Edward and his friends emerged from the trees. John understood. "Get in now." Lily scrambled into the truck. "They're coming after me." John hit the gas, the truck speeding into the night. Lily glanced back, locking eyes with Edward, his face twisted in rage. She was gone. She would never return. The truck rumbled through the night, carrying Lily toward New York City. As dawn broke, the skyline appeared. Tall, gleaming buildings unlike anything she'd seen. Her heart pounded with fear and hope. She was no longer the despised child of Willow Creek. She would start over. John stopped the truck in a bustling neighborhood. "Where you going now, kid?" he asked. Lily shook her head. "I don't know, but I'll find a way." He sighed, pressing a few crumpled bills into her hand. Take this. You won't last long in New York without money. Lily stared at the bills, her eyes stinging. For the first time, someone had helped her without judgment. Thank you, she whispered. John smiled. Prove 'em wrong, kid. He drove off, leaving Lily alone in the vast city. New York City was a world of noise and motion, its streets alive with honking taxis, street vendors, and towering skyscrapers. Lily, now 15, stood on a crowded sidewalk, clutching John's bills. The city was overwhelming, but it was also a blank slate, a place where no one knew her as the cursed girl. She wandered until she reached a slum district where the buildings were crumbling and the air smelled of garbage. At a boarding house run by an old woman named Stella, Lily handed over a few coins. I just need a place to sleep, she said. Stella narrowed her eyes. You got more money, kid? Lily shook her head. I'll work for it. Stella huffed, but took the coins. Fine, but no charity. You stay, you work. The next day, Lily found a school for poor children, a run-down building where kids like her could learn. She approached the head teacher, Mr. Matthew, a stern man with a thick beard. I want to study here, she said firmly. Matthew eyed her birthmark, but didn't flinch. Got money for tuition? No, but I'll work. I'll clean, scrub floors, anything. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. If you're willing to work, you can study. Lily's days began before dawn. She cleaned classrooms, scrubbed floors, and did every menial task. When the other students arrived, she sat at a desk devouring her books. She solved math problems with fierce determination, wrote essays with clarity, and read faster than anyone. Exhaustion weighed her down, but she never stopped. Every time she thought of Willow Creek, of Edward's cruelty, she pushed harder. I can't stop. I have to keep going. 3 years passed. Lily didn't just complete her education, she excelled. Her teachers noticed her brilliance, and Mr. Matthew called her into his office one day. This is a scholarship to Columbia University's pre-med program, he said, handing her a letter. I recommended you. Lily's eyes widened. What? You have talent, Lily. You deserve a better future. Tears fell as she held the letter. She had been abandoned, starved, beaten, but now she had a chance to rewrite her fate. At Columbia, Lily threw herself into her studies. She faced prejudice, whispers about her birthmark, sidelong glances, but she ignored them. She graduated at the top of her class and enrolled in medical school, specializing in dermatology and reconstructive surgery. Her goal was clear: to help others with facial differences, to give them the confidence she had fought so hard to find. By her late 20s, Dr. Lily Harper was a rising star. Her innovative techniques for treating facial disfigurements earned her recognition across the country. She worked tirelessly, her days filled with surgeries, research, and advocacy. But even as she succeeded, she never forgot Willow Creek, or the people who had tried to break her. One evening, Lily attended the Golden Hand ceremony, a prestigious event honoring medical professionals. The host's voice boomed through the hall. Please welcome Dr. Lily Harper, the leading reconstructive surgeon in America. The audience erupted in applause as Lily stepped onto the stage, her elegant gown shimmering under the lights. Her birthmark was still there, but it no longer defined her. She smiled confidently, knowing that somewhere people were watching who couldn't believe their eyes. In Willow Creek, a small diner had its TV tuned to the event. The townspeople watched, unaware of who was about to appear. When Lily's face filled the screen, Mrs. Langston gasped, That's the cursed girl." The diner fell silent. No one could deny the truth staring them in the face. Meanwhile, the Harper family had fallen from grace. Charles's real estate empire crumbled due to risky investments, leaving them in financial ruin. Victoria, once a celebrated socialite, was now a bitter woman clinging to past glory. Edward, no longer the golden boy, suffered from a rare skin condition that left his face scarred. He had sought countless doctors, but none could help. As he watched Lily on TV, Edward's stomach twisted. The sister he'd mocked, The monster he'd chased out of town was now a celebrated doctor. Fate had turned the tables. The next morning, Edward arrived at Lily's hospital, his worn suit a far cry from his former elegance. "I need to see Dr. Lily Harper," he told the receptionist, his voice trembling. "Tell her I'm her brother." Lily appeared, her white coat pristine, her gaze calm but cold. "What do you want, Edward?" He swallowed hard. "Please, can you help me? You're the best surgeon. You can save me." Lily raised an eyebrow. "Why should I help you?" Edward hesitated. "You're right, I was wrong. I mocked you, hurt you. But please, don't treat me the way I treated you." Lily stared at him, her expression unreadable. "There are some wounds that never heal, Edward, but I won't become like you." She paused, then nodded. "I'll treat you, not because I forgive you, but because I refuse to be the monster you were." Edward's eyes widened, tears spilling down his face. "Thank you, Lily." The surgery was a success, but to Lily, Edward was just another patient. She had risen above him, above Willow Creek, above the pain of her past. Lily stepped out of the hospital, the New York sky clear and blue. She had won, not through revenge, but by rising so high that those who once crushed her could never reach her. The past no longer held her captive. She was free. News of her success spread, reaching Willow Creek. Mrs. Langston, who had once called for her exile, whispered, "We were too cruel." Mr. Ramsey, who had thrown the brick, lowered his head. "If I'd known, I wouldn't have done it." But their regret meant nothing to Lily. She had no intention of returning. Charles and Victoria lived in obscurity, their wealth gone, their pride shattered. Victoria, watching Lily on TV, muttered, "She wasn't supposed to exist." But the truth was undeniable. Lily had not only survived, she had soared. Edward, his face healed but his soul scarred, returned to the Harper mansion. He found Victoria in the empty living room, her eyes red. "Anthony, you have to do something," she said. "Restore our family's honor." Edward laughed bitterly. "We never had any honor, Mother." He walked away, leaving her alone in the hollow mansion. A month later, Lily was invited to the American Medical Excellence Awards. The hall was grand, filled with hundreds of admirers. As she stepped onto the stage, the host smiled. "Dr. Lily Harper, do you have anything to share?" Lily took a deep breath, her voice steady. "I was once a child abandoned, called a curse, cast out, beaten and starved. But I survived. I rose above it. Today I stand here not for revenge, but to say one thing. True beauty is not in the face, but in the heart." The audience stood, cheering her name. Somewhere far away, the people who had wronged her bowed their heads in shame. But Lily no longer cared. She had founded a non-profit to help children with facial differences, giving them the support she never had. Her past was closed, her future bright. Lily had proven that life is not defined by circumstances or others' judgments, but by determination and resilience. She didn't need revenge. Fate had already punished those who hurt her. Dr. Lily Harper, once the cursed girl, was now a beacon of hope, shining brighter than ever.